this book yesterday and
you'll have seen I just finished this, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Maria, and today's video is going to be a reading vlog, and I'm hoping it's going to be a really good reading week for me because I'm basically reading two of my most hyped reads that I have in the month of February, and these are both books that are kind of having a moment, have both blown up on TikTok and Bookstagram and BookTube, so I'm really hoping I'm going to end the week with two new favourite reads. But the first one that I am reading, and one that I have already started, is Quicksilver by Callie Hart, and this one is basically the romantasy darling of the moment. A lot of people have read this and really loved it. I've seen a few people say that they didn't enjoy it as much, but overall I do think that most people who have read this have really enjoyed it, thought it was one of the best romantasies they've read in a while, and were totally obsessed with it. So I had kind of put off reading this one because for some reason when a book is really hyped or if it's getting a lot of attention, something in my brain just switches off and says, we don't need to read that now, we'll read it later once the hype dies down. And I don't know what that is, and I don't know why I do that. I don't know if it's like a fear of not liking it or something like that, but I had this on my Kindle downloaded when it was an indie publication and then just didn't get round to it. Then it was traditionally published and still I haven't got round to it, but I picked up the physical copy in January and I almost put it on my February TBR but decided against it for one reason or another, probably the reason I've just said, and so many people said I need to read this and especially need to read it while listening to the audiobook, so I have downloaded the audiobook as well and have been listening to that and reading along with this. Now I intended to read this last night just for a while, just to maybe get about 10% in, just get a feel of the writing, get a feel of the story, see if I think it's something I'm going to enjoy, and I'm already 30% in, even though I only had a short time to read it. It's just been really bingeable so far. But in this one we're following Ceres, who is living in this land which is quite kind of downtrodden, quite desolate. It's kind of like described almost like a desert land where water is rationed to the poor, and Ceres is one of these poor. She's living kind of in the slums with her brother, and in order to survive she's been basically siphoning from kind of the queen's rations for quite some time and has managed to get away with it. And at the start of the book it really kicks off with the action. She's basically being chased for siphoning pursuits, and essentially we just get a real feel of the world and kind of the atmosphere within this book from that scene. One thing leads to another and Ceres actually ends up getting captured, and while she's in captivity she manages to open this portal to the Fae realm, which from her perspective she'd always thought wasn't real. You know, she thought it was just stories that were made up, and she's also exploring the fact that she may have some power that she wasn't aware of before, and the story kind of goes from there. At the start of it she is very much just trying to protect her brother and kind of provide for him. So they're both a bit older, he's 20 and she is 23, but she still has a very protective nature over him, so a lot of her concern at the start of the book is just trying to care for him and making sure that he's okay as well. So when she goes into this Fae realm obviously she's quite distressed about that, but she's also obviously now trying to navigate her way through this Fae realm, kind of through this court that she's ended up going into, and there's a backdrop of war and a lot of politics and a lot of family dynamics. And I'll be honest and say that this has been completely bingeable since I picked it up. I really like the writing style. The audiobook is 10 out of 10. The performances that we're getting are really good, and I love the way that it's a duet narration, so any of the male characters there's a male narrator and the female characters are female narrator, so it definitely just livens up that performance for me and is really making me feel immersed in this world. And I don't know if it's the audiobook that's making it feel really fast paced, but I think just so far up until the 30% mark it just really gripped me with the story, with the world, with the pacing, and obviously there is a little bit of romance that has been introduced, but up to this point it hasn't really been there too much. It is getting introduced, there's little trickles of obviously who the main character is going to get with. I think we know basically from the synopsis who that's going to be, but so far I'm really enjoying it. I don't want to speak too soon and say that it's going to be a new favourite for me. I am only 30% in, so it may get insufferable from this point on, but so far so good. I've really enjoyed the world building, really enjoyed the characters, the banter has been really good as well, and yeah, so far I just think it's been really well done. So that's the first book I'm reading this week, and then the next book is going to be Beartown by Frederick Beckman, and so completely different kind of genre and feel to Quicksilver, but this one is another one that I think is kind of getting a resurgence. This is a little bit of an older book, so I think this was published in around 2017, so it's been out for quite some time, but I think recently it's got a real resurgence on BookTube and Bookstagram, so I've seen a lot of people picking this up and just really loving it. I think one of the things that most people say about this one is the writing style and kind of the themes that are explored in here are what really draws them into the story, and just the way it's written rather than kind of the story itself. It's not kind of a vibe vibes, no plot story, but I do think it's a bit of an exploration on human nature and kind of how we react to things and our morality and things like that. So really excited to jump into this one. All I know about it is it's kind of set in this town in Sweden. I believe it is translated from Swedish as well. Basically in this town, it's quite a quiet town, doesn't really have much going for it, but there's a big ice hockey tournament that's coming up, and the team from this town are basically going to put the town on the map, and it's going to be really good for them going forward. But the day before kind of the final, a really harrowing event happens within the town, and it's really just exploring people's reactions to that, and kind of the people who want to keep it quiet so that they don't damage the reputation of the town, and then the people who want to see, you know, justice being done and do the moral thing, I suppose. So really interested and intrigued to see how I find this one, especially the writing, because as I say, I've heard it has some really beautiful passages that are really quotable and relatable as well, and I've heard his writing is quite simplistic but at the same time really impactful. So yeah, really intrigued to see what I feel about this one. But I think this week, usually I do kind of tandem read my books, but I think just because these are so disparate in terms of the themes and the story that we're reading, I might just try and concentrate on one book at a time. And I do want to annotate this one as well, so I want to try and give this one my full attention when I'm reading it. But yeah, those are the two books that I'll be reading this week, and the two books that I'll be talking about in this vlog. Really different, very different paces, I would imagine, but both books that I've been really highly anticipating, and as I say, I have been getting a lot of hype in kind of the bookish community recently, so really excited to see where I land with both of these. As I say, I've already started Quicksilver, and so far I would say it's worth the hype, but we've got a long way to go before I finish this one. So yeah, I'll probably be reading a bit more of this evening, and if it's as bingeable as it has been so far, I'll probably get through this one pretty quickly. But once I've read a bit more, probably once I get to maybe the 60% mark, I'll probably jump on and give you an update on this one. So I'm about 70% into this book now, and I am eating this up. It is so good. I can't believe I waited so long to read this one. I was just really apprehensive because there's been a few kind of BookTok viral books that I've read, and for whatever reason they just weren't for me. It just wasn't my type of romantasy, but this has everything that I love in a romantasy in it. We've got the FMC, who yes is sassy and badass, but we see a lot of her vulnerability within her inner monologue. She's very relatable, very funny as well, and her banter with some of the other characters is really good. And when it comes to the MMC, yes, he's kind of the grumpy, broody, heart of stone character at the start, and you kind of see that breaking down as we're reading through. And I think all in all, it's not anything new, but I'm just loving it. It's just really well done. It has everything, as I say, that I love in a romantasy. The tension between the characters and kind of the build-up of their relationship has been really well done. You know, yes, it was a little bit lust forward at the start, but it was done in a way that I believe it. You know, it was very believable. I wasn't thinking that it was insta-love or anything like that. The tension was kind of building and building and building, which again is the type of relationship I love. It wasn't quite slow burn, I wouldn't say, because there was kind of an attraction there early in the story from the FMC's point of view anyway, but it definitely doesn't come across as insta-love at all. Even at this point, at the 70% mark, it's not coming across as that. But we've got some really great side characters as well. Carrion Swift is a side character who Sarah knew from her kind of human life, and I haven't seen many people talk about him, but he's honestly one of the best side characters I've seen in a book in a long time. He's making me laugh, definitely adding that comedic relief throughout some of the more heavy scenes as well. And yeah, I just think all in all, I'm just having a really good time with this. It's been really fun. I'm not finding myself bored with it. I think the world building is really good in here. I'm really intrigued by kind of the plot and the storyline that's going on. I can't really guess where the story's going to go as well, so again, kind of keeping me on my toes when it comes to the story. So while it may be predictable in terms of the tropes, it's definitely not in terms of the storyline. But yeah, I think I'm going to be able to finish this one today. I think I've got about an hour and a half left of listening to the audiobook, and I'm loving the dual narration on that as well. I think that is helping as well with the enjoyment of this one. But yeah, I just can't believe I waited so long to read this one, because it's really, really good. But I think I'll be able to finish this one today, and then I'll be able to start Beartown tomorrow. But obviously my next update for this one will be when I've finished it, and I'll give you kind of my overall thoughts.
Hi lovelies! So I finished this book yesterday and this was so good. This was so good. I'm so glad I decided to pick this up, even though it wasn't on my February TBR. But something was just calling to me with this one, and the FOMO really got me. Now, as I say, do I think this is anything absolutely new and groundbreaking when it comes to romantasy? No, not really. It's not really, but it was just done so well. It just has everything that I really love in a romantasy. As I was saying, kind of the great world building, the intriguing magic system. It was really fast paced. I didn't find myself bored for 1 minute. Really loved the tension between the characters and kind of their relationship, how that built, the lore around it. It was a tension filled romance. There was twists at every turn, and Carrion Swift, the man that you are, new book boyfriend. I know everyone's supposed to love Kingfisher, but Carrion Swift, he was it for me in this book. So really glad I decided to pick this one up. It's kind of restored my faith in romantasy a little bit, because I kept reading a lot of the hyped romantasies, and it's not that they were bad, they just weren't the type of romantasy that I enjoy. This has definitely restored my faith in romantasy, and that there are still romantasies out there that I will enjoy, because it is my favourite genre. And I was just getting so disheartened that I couldn't find one that was giving me kind of that 5-star feeling with a new series, and this has definitely got me there. I definitely think if you're going to read this, listen to the audiobook. It's the duet narration is really good and really brought the characters to life, so I really hope they do that for the second book, because I'll definitely use the audiobook to listen to this while I'm reading along as well. But yeah, really loved this one. It is probably more 4.5 star. I give a 5-star on Goodreads because I couldn't really think of why I'm not rating a 5, but there's just something, it wasn't quite 5, but it was very close. It was 4.5. So definitely if you're a romantasy lover and you're a bit like me where you haven't really found one that's really gripped you and pulled you in and got you intrigued, give this a try if you haven't yet. It's definitely worth the hype. So that means I can now start Beartown, so I'm probably going to start that either later this evening or tomorrow morning. So want to try and read that physically as much as possible. I do have the audiobook, but I do think it's one that I'm just going to want to read with my eyeballs rather than listening along with the audio, because I think there's going to be a lot of kind of really beautiful prose that I might want to highlight and tab. So yeah, it's Saturday now, so I'll just be chilling for the rest of the day, so hopefully I'll get a bit of that started later tonight, but if not, I'll probably start it tomorrow morning and give you an update once I've read a little bit of that one.
Lovelies, just jumping on to give you a reading progress update on Beartown. So I'm on page 130 and that's chapter 15, and so far I am really enjoying this. It did take me a chapter or two to really get into it because The writing style is a little staccato at times, so quite short sentences, and I do think at the start of the story you're kind of getting to meet quite a big ensemble of characters. So there's no real main character in this one. We are kind of following quite a few different characters who are involved within the hockey team, kind of following their backstories, understanding their backgrounds and how they got to be where they are today. So it took me 1 or 2 chapters to get into it, but once I got into it I've been really enjoying it ever since, and I have been annotating as well, so there's quite a few tabs in there because there has been quite a few quotes that I just found really relatable while I've been reading this, but it's giving me exactly what it says on the tin. So on the face of it, this is a story about this small town called Beartown in the north of Sweden. It's very cold, very snowy, very atmospheric. Frederick Backman has done a really great job of kind of situating us in this town, and I really feel immersed in the town, kind of the environment when he's describing it. But in this town, it doesn't really have much going for it, you know, there's no real tourist culture there, people don't really visit this town, which has meant over the last few years factories, shops and things like that have kind of been dwindling because they don't really have the need for them. It's meant that a lot of people in the town are really struggling, and it's on the brink of becoming quite desolate if they don't find a big change really soon. Therein comes in the hockey team, who are kind of on the verge of quite a big win within the Ice Hockey League, because if they win this game it will kind of put them on the map as well as this town, and will encourage more people to kind of come and visit the town and hopefully then reap the fortune of that tourist attraction so that the people in the town can start to do better. But obviously at the moment they are still quite in a desolate and dark place. A lot of people are kind of struggling, and we're just following a lot of people's lives within this. One of the main families that we're following is the general manager of the ice hockey team's family, and we do get glimpses into each of their individual lives and kind of what they do. And I just think it's been a really great character study in terms of seeing how this game can kind of impact the entire town, but also how different people react to different things, different situations. And I do think that's what this book is kind of going to excel at, just being a real human study in terms of how people react in different situations. And it's already been quite sad. I do think this is maybe going to be quite a heartbreaking book by the time we get to the end of it, but even so far I have found quite a few of the quotes relatable, even if it's situations that I'm not necessarily in myself, in terms of obviously parenthood and things like that. There's quite a lot of discussion around that in here just because of the characters that we're following, and even though I'm not a parent myself, I do find myself kind of relating to the feelings that he's expressing, and I can really see why a lot of people related with the writing in this one. But yeah, I think at the 30% mark I think we've finally kind of got the background out of the way. We know what's happening, we're all kind of invested in this game. He's got me really invested in this game and hoping that they win. I really do want them to win. I'm not sure if they are going to, given kind of the themes that I've heard about this book, but I think he's done a really great job of kind of immersing us within this small town and really making us feel culture that they have, and really rooting for the small town to do well. So at this point I'm definitely really rooting for them. Be interested to see where it goes now, because I think we'll probably get into the meat of the story now and kind of where this is going to go. I know there is an incident that's supposed to happen that we haven't really explored yet, so I think the next kind of 30 to 40% we'll likely delve into that and we'll get to the meat of it and kind of exploring that. But yeah, so far so good. I really like all of the characters. As I say, I'm really rooting for all of them, so be interested to see how that next bit goes, see if that changes for any of the ones that we've been following so far. Hopefully going to be able to read a bit more this evening. I'm hoping to get a good bit read actually today, because I will have some time after work, so probably jump on once I've reached around the 60 or 70% mark, because I'd imagine there will be a lot that will happen within that time. And yeah, once I reach that point I'll probably jump on and give you an update. So I'm now at around 67% of this one, so as promised I'm jumping in just to give you a bit of an update on where we are with it. So obviously the incident that is kind of alluded to in the synopsis of this one has happened, and we're just kind of spiralling in the aftermath of that, and the town is basically spiralling in the aftermath of it as well, and we're just seeing everyone's point of view and what they think about it, and kind of seeing how a town that was previously so close-knit because of this final coming up can be very easily separated, and are now kind of choosing sides when it comes to this incident. First thing I will say is obviously just to look up some trigger warnings for this one if you are going to delve into it, specifically to do with sexual assault. Just definitely look that up if you're going to be reading this one. But I feel like in the last 30% this has just really went from kind of a book that I could really feel like I was going to enjoy and it was going to be 5-star, to one that I think will stick with me for a very long time. In terms of the incident, in terms of things that have happened in this, I'm loving the way that he's approaching it. I think it's being approached really respectfully. The writing is really impactful. Again, it is still quite simple, but it is very impactful. There's subtle differences that he will put into his language that are really impacting crafting the message that he's trying to convey, and it's just so nuanced as well, but you can just tell that there's been so much careful consideration and thought put into this book and put into kind of the depiction of each of the parties who are involved throughout this town. And one thing I will say is this book is incredibly sad at this point. I think it's not one that's kind of making me cry, it's just one that's really making me feel, which I don't know if that makes sense. It's not kind of these big epic scenes that are bringing tears to my eyes, it is just the whole way through. You just really feel everything that everyone is feeling in this, and maybe a better way to describe it is, rather than sad, it is quite emotional. You can really feel the emotions through the page, and again I think it's just talent within this writing, even though it does on the face of it seem really simplistic. He's kind of giving us vignettes of these different scenes, and you do jump from different scenes quite often. In terms of the way it's written, you're kind of jumping from different character to character, and you may think that that would be jarring, but I think it actually just adds to the impact of the message that is trying to be conveyed with this story. And yeah, just overall I just think just really impressed with how thought-provoking this has been, how even though it is a lot of social commentary and maybe things that we've heard said before or things that have been explored before, the way it's being done in this book is just really beautiful, and I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. The story is a pretty hard one to read, to be fair, but I also found myself not being able to put this one down. I really want to see where this goes. I know this is the first in a series, so I'm not sure whether it will be concluded within this book or if we will read on, or if it's kind of smaller stories within each book. I'm not too sure. I don't want to look up the synopsis of the next ones until I finish this one, obviously, so I'm not sure what the next kind of 30% is going to bring, how this is going to conclude. I think I've only got around 170 pages or something like that, so hoping to read a good bit this evening, and I probably will be able to finish this then by tomorrow and jump on and give you my final thoughts. But at this point there's absolutely nothing that I could criticise about this book other than the fact it's just making me pretty emotional when it comes to some of the themes in here. So yeah, as I say, hopefully get this finished by tomorrow, so once I'm finished I'll come on and give you all my final thoughts and feelings. As you'll have seen, I just finished this, and wow, what a book. Literally speechless. I don't know how to put into words how good this book was. Literally no words. I feel like this is a book that will touch the hearts of so many people. I can completely understand why this has got the hype, why this is getting its resurgence, especially with TikTok and things like that. It's definitely getting recognised probably by a wider set of readers, because when you read that this is a story about a hockey town, it's so much more than that. It is so much more than that. The ending of this for me wasn't exactly what I wanted. It wasn't the outcome that I think you will want, but isn't that life? Isn't that just what happens in life? You don't always get what you want, but you have to kind of find a way of dealing with that and kind of moving on with that. But at the same time, I'm still really satisfied with the ending, if that makes any sense. I think with this book, just the main thing is that it really forces the reader to evaluate your own morality, evaluate your own sense of self. It tackles some really difficult themes to read about. Obviously there's rape culture in here, there's discussion of suicide, there's homophobia, and obviously the hazards of idealization of, you know, like celebrity culture and things like that. And it was just an emotional roller coaster from start to finish. I found myself being enraged at times, laughing at other times, incredibly sad, and yeah, it just took you completely on a journey. I think there were so many characters on here that you would think you may not be able to connect with all of them on any level, but I really felt like I knew each and every character within here. The characterizations were done so well in such a short amount of time, and I really feel like I know Beartown. I feel like I've been there, I feel like I've visited, and I know all of these people, and I feel like I live there. It was expertly done, and I think at the start of this, as I said, I was kind of speechless. I don't really know how to really eloquently express what I felt about this book and how I felt while reading it and what I'm feeling about it now. And I mean, if it's not obvious, 5 stars. This is automatic 5 stars. Amazing. Cannot wait to read the rest of the series and read more about this town. Can't wait to read more of his writing as well, because I really, really liked his writing. At first I wasn't too sure if it was going to be writing for me, because as I say, on the face of it, it is quite simplistic, but in terms of the way he delivers messages, yeah, just really, really good. As I say, I did end up tabbing it, so there's quite a few tabs in there for me to kind of look over, but if you're going to put any book on your TBR this year, I think for anyone who likes any genre, I think this is kind of one of those books that's just going to be accessible to anyone, and most people who pick it up are going to love it. I really loved it anyway, so highly, highly recommend. But that's it for this week. So we've ended up having two basically 5-star reads this week, two very different 5-star reads, and I think that just perpetuates the idea that 5 stars is definitely a feeling, and these are both 5 stars, but 5 stars for very, very different reasons. If I had to say, I would say that obviously I think this one kind of impacted me a lot more. I do think this is a book that I will carry with me for a very long time, but this was equally a 5-star in terms of what I was looking for a romantasy, story, the plot, the banter, again, all 5 stars. So I mean, what a great reading week. 2 5 stars in a week, as I say, admittedly very different, but I mean, you can't really ask for more than that. Let me know if you've read those and if you've enjoyed them, what your thoughts and feelings were. I'd love to know. And if you have any book recommendations based on those, especially Beartown, if you have any recommendations kind of more in the literary fiction side of things, because that is a genre that I want to jump into a little bit more this year, definitely let me know, because I'm really intrigued to find some new authors who may have kind of a similar writing style that I may enjoy. If you like this video, do remember to give it a like, and if you want to see more from me, remember to subscribe. I post 2 videos per week, and it's videos like this, so reading vlogs, TBR videos, book recommendation videos, book hauls, come shopping with me, all good biggish things like that. Other than that, thanks so much for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one soon. Bye!